The Vickers Mk.7/2 was a prototype main battle tank designed by Vickers for the export market. Combining Vickers' domestically designed turret with the hull and automotive system of the German Leopard 2, the Mk.7/2 stood poised to enter service as perhaps the best tank of its day. So why didn't it? Hello and welcome to another Tank Encyclopedia voiced article. I'm your host Tony, and today I'll be covering the Vickers Mk.7/2 main battle tank. If you like our videos and want to support us, please consider donating on Patreon or PayPal. All of the funds will be used to improve future Tank Encyclopedia content. Any help would be greatly appreciated. The lineage of the 7/2 can be traced back to the mid-1970s and the creation of Chobham armor, a special composite design that was superior to traditional steel armor. At the same time, Chieftain was starting to enter its twilight years, and a new design would eventually be required. Vickers saw an excellent opportunity to design a new tank equipped with Chobham for the British Army, as well as a potentially lucrative model for export. The design they came up with was the Vickers Mk. Marketed as the Valiant. Unfortunately for Vickers, the government opted to acquire the Challenger tank as its new standard MBT. With wounded pride, the Valiant was loaded onto its transporter, only to promptly slip and roll off. The turret was fixable, the hull was not. Thus, by 1983, Vickers have a state-of-the-art turret all dressed up with nowhere to go. To rectify this problem and to alleviate the cost already invested in the project, Vickers considered mounting the turret on the Challenger. However, this required a joint venture with Royal Ordnance Factory Leeds, their competitor in British tank design, and so proved unworkable. Instead, they turned to the West German firm of Krauss-Maffei, who manufactured hulls for the Leopard 2. While there were and are still restrictions on arm export from Germany, at the time there were none for unarmed hulls. While some nations could not acquire Leopard 2s, there was nothing to stop them buying Vickers tank which, it just so happened, also used Leopard 2 components. Work began on what became known as the Mk.7/2 in 1984, and the tank was properly unveiled in June 1985 with demonstration for a Middle Eastern buyer set to commence soon after. The Vickers turret was a typical three-man design with the commander, gunner, and loader. For optics, the commander had a slightly raised cupola with 6 one-time heliotype viewers as well as a 2-axis stabilized sight with 2x, 3x, and 10x magnification. The gunner was given a 10x magnification telescopic laser sight. The loader was also provided with a single observation periscope. Both gunner and commander sights were equipped with the neodymium YAG laser rangefinder, allowing for the quick ranging of targets. The commander also possessed a set of gun controls, enabling him to operate the main armament in the event of an emergency. Rather than a turret basket like other conventional design, the turret crew was seated upon a turntable supported on steadying rollers. This platform was covered in non-slip aluminum plating and also contained a ready ammunition stowage. When it came to firepower, potential buyers could choose between two 120mm cannons, the rifled Royal Ordnance L11A5 or smoothbore Rheinmetall RH120L44. Both had equal degrees of elevation and depression, +20 and -10 degrees respectively, and were clad in a thermal sleeve to reduce barrel distortion and mounted a muzzle reference system to provide additional information for the fire control system. The primary practical difference between the two was that with the RH120, the Mk.7/2 could carry 44 rounds, but only 38 with the L11A5. With either weapon equipped, a train loader could load 1 round every 6 seconds, for a rate of fire of 10 rounds per minute. Fire control and gun stabilization was provided by an all-electric system by Marconi. The SFCS 600 ballistic computer was also installed to assist the gunner in quickly obtaining a firing solution. Coupled with a laser rangefinder, this significantly improved the chances of a first-round hit. The Mk.7/2 also carried a 7.62mm Hughes chain machine gun, mounted coaxially with the main armament. Another 7.62, this time an L37A2, was mounted next to the commander's cupola and could be operated by remote control from within the tank. Both of these weapons were interchangeable with a variety of commercially available 12.7mm machine guns. For both machine guns, a total of 3,000 rounds were carried. 2 smoke grenade launchers was also carried on the turret. These were initially mounted on the front turret cheeks, but were later moved to the rear sights. The hull of the vehicle was the same one used on Leopard 2. The driver sat on the right with whole ammunition stowage to his left. Steering was done by means of a wheel with brake and accelerator pedals to dictate speed. A German MTU turbocharged diesel engine provided 1,500 brake horsepower for movement, while a Rank HSWL 354/3 gearbox provided the tank with 4 forward and 2 reverse gears. A single manual forward and reverse gear could also be used if the automatic gearbox failed. With the MTU engine, the Mk.7/2 could reach a top speed of 72 km per hour. Armor protection was provided by the use of composite armor blocks. The front and sides of the turret were protected by Chobham armor, except for approximately the rear third of the turret sides, where the blocks were actually hollow for additional storage space. The hull was also protected with composite armor, but whether it had the same composition as Chobham or was entirely different is unknown. The specifics of Chobham were certainly known to the West German government, who had been given the details by the Americans, who themselves had been given the information by the British, so either answer is possible. The tank also had a nuclear, biological, and chemical filtration system located on the rear panel of the turret. While keeping the tank crew safe in harmful environments, it also has the added benefit of quickly removing fumes created from firing the tank's weaponry. An automatic firefighting system was also included. After the tank's unveiling in mid-1985, in September, the Mk.7/2 and a sales team from Vickers traveled to what they hoped would be a lucrative market, Egypt. At the time, the Egyptian military was looking to modernize its armed forces and its tank fleet in particular. Across country, the Vickers averaged a speed of 55 and a top speed of 80 km per hour. On soft sand, the tank proved less adept, averaging about 40 km per hour, although the area it crossed was considered impassable by any Egyptian vehicle then in service. Firing trials were similarly successful. Armed with the British L-11A5, the Vickers undertook 2 firing trials at targets between 1 to 3,000 meter distant and achieved a 75% and 80% hit rate, respectively. Against moving and stationary target using both commander and gunner firing station, the tank achieved a 57% hit rate. The final test was at the behest of the Egyptians, who requested the tank be driven up an 80-degree ramp, elevate the main armament to full elevation, and fire an APDS round. This was done to stress test the coupling between hull and turret. The British crew were apprehensive, not because they weren't confident in the product, but because no one knew just how far such a round would travel, even in the vast expanse of the Egyptian desert. Nevertheless, the trial was performed, the tank and the turret stayed together and no one complained about being shelled, so all seems to have worked out well. The test concluded at the start of October. Having been tested by both a British and Egyptian crew, the tank seemed to have given a good impression, with good mobility and firepower coupled with a reliable and easily maintainable engine. Vickers may have been confident that Egypt would soon be placing an order for the Mk.7/2, but events elsewhere would dash his hopes. The legal loophole that had allowed the export of Leopard 2 hulls abroad was closed, and all tank hull exports were cancelled. With the stroke of a pen, was the Vickers Mk.7/2 an impossible dream. With no alternate hulls available, the concept was dead. Still, Vickers had a top-of-the-line tank turret sitting about, and their eyes turned to what some were seeing as the next gold mine of the arms trade, South America. The technology of the Vickers Mk.7/2 turret seems to have been merged with that of the Vickers Mk.4 turret in order to create 2 brand new turrets for Brazil's new MBT by Engesa, the Osorio, which would also meet a similar ignoble end despite promising beginnings. Attached to 2 different hulls, 2 different tanks, and 2 commercial failures, the Vickers turret itself almost seems to have been cursed. Combining the latest in British and German engineering and technology, the Mk.7/2 had the potential to be a first-class design available to nations looking for modern foreign tanks, and may have even been superior to the current tanks then in service with NATO. Despite its failure, both Vickers and Krauss-Maffei would go on to enjoy success in the defense industry. Vickers would win the contract to produce Challenger 1 repair and recovery vehicle, acquiring ROF leads in the process, while the Leopard 2 remains a very popular export tank, with nearly 2,000 sold to foreign buyers since the end of the Cold War. This concludes our video about the Vickers Mk.7/2. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscription. You can find more information relating to these vehicles in the full article, which is linked in the description. If you like what we are doing and want to let us continue working on these videos, please consider donating on Patreon or PayPal.
All the funds will be allocated to improving our articles and videos for you. Until next time, keep us in your sights.